extraordinaires. I never expected the earth itself to shift under our feet that morning. What we found buried beneath this stone would untouch. I recognized the markings instantly, but unlike any Legion seal I had studied, the lines formed a route I had only seen mentioned in suppressed Roman reports. It meant the treasure was not a myth, it had a map.
The triangle wasn't decorative. It pointed towards something beyond these ruins. I understood then that
I followed the angle encoded on the slab, trusting the ancients more than my own certainty. The forest swallowed us quickly, as if guarding what lay hidden inside. They weren't ours, and they were recent. Someone else had decoded the slab before we arrived. The route matched the carved lines perfectly. Whoever hid the treasure anticipated pursuit, even centuries later. This was the first waymarker, a silent witness left by engineers who disappeared from the historical record. Their absence had never been explained. The slope descended exactly where the old reports claimed the engineers vanished. I wondered if the treasure was worth the price they paid. The broken vessels suggested a hurried camp. Someone abandoned this place in fear, not peace. The air felt unnaturally still here, as if time had stopped the moment the Romans left.
I sensed something beneath the surface, something built, not natural. The ground felt hollow under my palm.
Stone matched Roman substructure design. Whatever this entrance led to had remained sealed for nearly 2 millennia. I hesitated, knowing this was the threshold the symbol warned about. But curiosity outweighed caution, as it always had. The seal wasn't broken, it was designed to open only once. I feared we were the first to succeed. A cold draft rose from below, carrying the scent of untouched centuries. The treasure was no longer a legend, it breathed.
I felt the same thrill I always did before crossing into the unknown. But this time, something deeper warned me not to look back.
the shaft was narrower than expected, as though meant for secrecy rather than access. It confirmed the Romans built this. Once my feet touched the chamber floor, I sensed I had crossed a line no living person had crossed in ages. The tunnel matched secret infrastructure from the late Empire. Construction meant to hide, not support. The precision of the cuts told me master engineers carved this. But why their work was never recorded remained a troubling mystery.
A torch mount meant human presence long ago, and maybe more recently. The footprints above haunted my thoughts.
The collapse suggested the structure shifted over centuries, yet the core remained intact. Something deeper still resisted time.
I realized the architecture was transitional, a design used only briefly by imperial engineers assigned to confidential projects.
The circles puzzled me. Rome rarely used such patterns. It hinted the treasure was bound to something the Empire feared.
As the air thickened, I felt the same tension described in the lost engineer journals.
Moisture meant we were nearing deeper cavities, possibly untouched reservoirs. It aligned with speculation that the treasure required environmental protection.
The map symbol suggested the left path, though every instinct told me the right was safer. But treasure rarely follows comfort.
The Romans engineered this constriction deliberately, likely as a psychological barrier. I felt it work on me even now. The ladder shouldn't have survived this long, yet here it stood. It meant the lower chamber had remained sealed from moisture, an intentional design.
I trusted the ancient craftsmanship more than modern hesitation. Each step felt like walking back into their final days.
I saw metal beneath the sediment, Roman alloy, but unusually bright. It suggested preservation of something far more valuable.
The hinge was not ceremonial. It guarded another descent. Whatever they hid below required protection on multiple layers.
I felt the truth drawing closer, the kind Rome would rather erase than preserve. And yet, I felt the temperature drop with every step. The Romans had buried this level so deep that daylight was only a memory. The echo died faster than it should have, as if the space below absorbed sound on purpose. It made the silence feel engineered. And The lower corridor was far more robust than the passages above. This was not improvised. It was recognized reinforcement techniques usually reserved for critical infrastructure. Whatever lay at the end of this tunnel had justified Rome's greatest effort. Hidden ventilation shafts kept the air just breathable, suggesting this place was meant to be occupied, briefly, and under strict control. The inscription did not dedicate the structure to a god or emperor. It warned, non redibis, you will not return. I told myself it was mineral runoff, but the irregular splatter pattern suggested something more violent.
A soldier had been here once, and he had not left with all his belongings. The treasure's guardians had likely become its victims.
The beam's failure showed how close the structure was to surrendering to time. We had to move carefully. One mistake could seal the secret forever.
The skulls were arranged deliberately, not discarded. They reminded me this was not only a vault. Fresh grooves cut through the dust, proving others had reached this depth before us. Their absence on the surface raised a new question. The hook belonged to no ancient legion. It proved their expedition had made it here. The gate functioned like a threshold, psychological and structural. Crossing it felt like leaving the world of ordinary archaeology behind. Channels like this often serve to move water or other fluids swiftly. Its presence suggested it. I scraped a sample mentally in my mind, imagining analysis later. But even without instruments, multiple legions had placed their marks here, as if sharing responsibility. The identical symbol in the center united them under a single hidden purpose. The missing door told me it had been forced open long ago. Someone, sometime, had decided the original containment was not enough. Crates once filled this room, perhaps with artifacts or supplies. They had been broken open from inside, not outside.
The gouges came from metal, not animal claws, yet they still conveyed panic. Whatever happened here had escalated beyond control.
When I saw the mask fragment, I understood that the engineers feared more than theft. They feared exposure to something invisible. The mist shouldn't have been there. The air was too still. It rose from somewhere deeper, carrying a scent of metal and stone. The central arch bore the numeral 3, matching the final mark on the map. It meant we were on the last segment before the vault. I chose the central path, knowing there would be no easy way back. The Romans structured their secrets like traps that close behind you.
The studs suggested some mechanism once ran through these walls. Gates, barriers, or devices.
The structure had held for centuries, but it was reaching its limits. Our presence might be the final weight that the stone could no longer bear.
I resisted every urge to test the mechanism. Without understanding its purpose, any movement could trigger the last defense of the vault.
These symbols were hastily brushed on, probably during an emergency. They were not decorative, they were warnings, added after construction.
I'd examine that happened.
The broken visor confirmed my suspicion. They had come prepared for a hazard they could not fully define. Preparation had not saved them. The scale of the arch announced we were nearing the central chamber. Rome often hid its most disturbing structures. The sudden neatness of the stonework felt unsettling. It was as if we had stepped into a room prepared, then left. The vault door was unlike anything I had seen in Roman architecture. Heavy, circular, and utterly final. The inscription carried an emperor's name, but no date, an omission that alone broke tradition. The mechanism was still intact, though strained by age. It looked designed to be opened once, with great effort, and never sealed again. As I prepared to force the vault, I realized we were about to cross a line the Romans had drawn with absolute intention. I pushed against the seam and felt centuries resisting me. But the vault yielded slightly. The vibration suggested gears still linked deep within the wall. It shocked me. They had survived untouched since the fall of the Empire. The rush of air carried a metallic tang, and something older, something preserved too well. When the door finally shifted, the sound was like a tomb waking from sleep. I felt history moving in front of me.
The narrow gap offered nothing but darkness, yet it radiated significance. I sensed we were entering the core of the secret.
The chamber beyond felt impossibly vast, its silence deeper than the tunnels. Whatever Rome entombed here demanded space.
My first steps echoed like whispers returning from a forgotten world.
Shapes emerged as my eyes adjusted. Structures, containers, offerings. This was no treasury, it was an archive of fear.
The chest carried the same warning seen earlier. Rome tried to seal something inside every layer of this place. No looter had opened it. That meant either fear stopped them, or the threat in this vault was real enough to keep them away.
The containers resembled military transport vessels, but their uniformity suggested they held a single category of something Rome wanted hidden.
The dust puzzled me. It was too fine for corrosion and too deliberate to be accidental. Something had reacted here long ago.
The platform marked the chamber's true purpose. The Romans did not center their vaults unless the contents determined everything.
I hesitated before touching the fabric. Whatever lay beneath had been protected with ceremonial care.
The sphere was far too advanced for its era, an engineering enigma. Rome did not. The engravings didn't match any known Roman school. They looked almost coded, as if designed to mislead or obscure.
A panel had loosened with age. Whatever mechanism once lived inside had long since fallen silent.
I had studied Roman devices my entire career, but nothing compared to the complexity hidden inside this sphere.
The mount looked strained, as if the sphere once vibrated with great force, or resisted being restrained. My instincts urged me to examine the sphere further, but the shelving drew my attention. Records, tools,
Canisters once held scrolls. Whatever knowledge they contained had been stored with far greater security than gold.
the parchment had been burned intentionally. Someone sought to erase information before abandoning this place forever. The Codex tempted me, but the corrosion locked it shut. It hinted at records the Empire never intended future generations to read. The map stretched beyond the Empire's reach. It suggested the treasure was part of something larger, a network, not a single secret. Romans sometimes copied foreign designs, but these looked integrated. The Empire had borrowed something it did not fully understand. The broken frame implied something else had once been stored here, something removed or escaped long before we arrived.
Lead was often used for shielding. The Romans feared not what the treasure could do, but what it could release.
The instruments were too advanced for simple construction. They hinted at experimentation, a kind Rome conducted in secret. The spill marks radiated outward as if from a small explosion. Containment had failed here once. The left wing looked abandoned in haste. Whatever they had discovered forced them to flee, leaving organization behind. The mosque pieces echoed the fragment we found earlier. It confirmed the Romans worked here under extreme precautions. The pipes implied circulation, whether of air, liquid, or something else. The sphere had been part of a system, not a standalone relic. If the valve once regulated the sphere, then stopping it might have been the Romans' final act before sealing the vault forever.
I returned to the sphere knowing it held the truth behind every warning. Its silence now felt more ominous than any movement could. When I saw the dust tremble, I realized the vault was not dead. Something within the sphere still remembered its ancient purpose. The tremor grew stronger, as though the sphere recognized our presence. It unsettled me more than any trap Rome could have built.
The seam had been dormant for centuries, yet it shifted now as if awakening. I feared we had triggered something the Romans sought. The sound struck like a command being acknowledged. I realized we were no longer observing an artifact. We were interacting with it.
The air above it warped unnaturally, breaking the stillness. Whatever energy once ran through this device had not fully died.
I saw pathways carved with impossible precision. This level of engineering defied everything we understood about Roman technology.
Heat radiated from the opening, convincing me the mechanism was reactivating. I doubted the Romans ever intended anyone to witness this moment.
The rumble came from far below, like a memory moving through stone.
Cracks bloomed everywhere, betraying the chamber's age. The Romans built to last, but nothing with...
A faint glow seeped from the apex, light with no source I could explain. It signaled that the sphere's core was still functional.
The dust formed a column too orderly to be random. The sphere was manipulating its surroundings as if resuming an ancient process.
I watched debris tremble in unison. Whatever power this device once contained, it still commanded the vault.
The pedestal carvings depicted containment, not worship. They revealed the Empire feared what this sphere could unleash.
The pictographs showed Romans defending themselves from the sphere. It confirmed my fear. This was no treasure. It was a threat. The sphere pulsed with light, too fast to comprehend. In that instant, I felt as if something inside acknowledged our intrusion. The pedestal began to fracture under the sphere's awakening. Whatever containment system the Romans built was failing. A bracket gave way, and the sphere leaned like a waking giant. Its movement felt intentional, not accidental.
The gears whispered inside, grinding through layers of dust. The device was returning to life in increments I barely understood.
Light spilled across the stone like dawn in an underground world. The sphere's activation was accelerating. The pipes carried the energy outward, as if activating a system designed to manage the sphere's power.
Something answered the sphere from deeper in the vault. The infrastructure Rome built extended farther than we imagined. The air thickened with each pulse. The vault was no longer passive, it was active.
The hum resonated through my bones. It felt ancient and purposeful, as though the device recognized its own awakening.
The pedestal's collapse seemed inevitable. Rome must have known the sphere's power would eventually escape its restraints. When it lifted, even slightly, I felt the impossible unfold. Gravity was no longer its master.
The field wrapped around the sphere like a protective skin. Whatever its purpose, the device was preparing for something.
The foreign symbols lit up, reacting to the sphere. They hinted that Rome borrowed knowledge beyond its... In that moment, I understood. The sphere wasn't treasure. It was a device meant to suppress something. The birth felt like the burst, the device announcing its return. For the first time, the entire chamber shook as if rejecting our presence. The vault was awakening to contain what we had disturbed. The sphere floated now without support. Its activation had bypassed every Roman safeguard left in place.
The pipes strained as if forced to resume a function they could no longer fulfill. The containment system was collapsing.
Energy surged outward but struck its own barrier. The sphere wasn't releasing power. It was resisting something from within.
The pedestal finally gave way, reduced to rubble. The sphere no longer needed support. It had reclaimed its autonomy.
I understood then why Rome buried this place in secrecy. This device was never meant to serve. As the pulse faded, the truth settled on me. We had not uncovered